You say something to your dog, maybe their name, maybe a word they know, maybe just a sound you made up on the spot, and their head tips to one side. One ear rises, the other drops. They hold the position for a moment, eyes fixed on you, and something in that gesture stops you. You smile every time. Most people do. And most people have filed it away under the same explanation. The dog is confused, or concentrating, or just being endearing in the way dogs are endearing. It feels like a reflex, something that happens automatically when the sound doesn't quite compute. But the research tells a different story. And there is one finding in particular, specific, structural, and counterintuitive, that reframes everything else about this behavior. It has nothing to do with what your dog is hearing. That finding comes later. For now, start with the explanation most people reach for first. The hearing theory makes intuitive sense. Dogs have mobile, highly directional outer ear structures, and they use head position to help locate where a sound is coming from. Research on canine auditory localization confirms that rotating the head shifts the acoustic angle and can help a dog triangulate a source more precisely. This is real. It is not the whole story, because if the head tilt were purely an auditory mechanism, you would expect dogs to tilt in response to any sound that's difficult to place. A creak in the wall, a noise from outside, a mechanical beep from across the room. But that is not what happens. Dogs tilt far more in response to human speech than to non-communicative sounds at equivalent volume and frequency. They tilt more toward familiar voices than unfamiliar ones making identical sounds. They tilt more when speech carries emotional weight than when it is flat and neutral. The pattern of when the tilt appears does not map onto acoustic difficulty. It maps onto social context. That's not a hearing reflex. That's a socially oriented behavior. Research on canine social referencing, the way dogs look to their owners for information about how to respond to ambiguous situations, establishes that dogs are acutely tuned to human communicative signals in ways that other animals are not. Work by Adam Miklosi and colleagues at Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest has demonstrated that dogs follow human gaze, read human attentional cues, and respond to communicative intent in ways that wolves raised by humans do not replicate. This is not a learned trick. It is a species-level orientation toward the humans they live with. Dogs are not simply processing the acoustic properties of your voice. They are orienting toward you as a communicative partner. The head tilt is the physical expression of that orientation. The dog is not just listening harder. It is leaning in, which raises a question most owners have not considered. If the tilt is aimed at the person rather than the sound, if it is fundamentally social, then what is the dog actually trying to get from that interaction? What is it reaching toward? Here is where the picture begins to shift. Because part of the answer involves the dog's own behavior being shaped, quietly and unintentionally, by yours. Every time your dog has tilted its head and you have smiled, spoken warmly, reached out to touch them, you have reinforced that behavior. The dog learns through basic operant conditioning, a principle documented in foundational behavioral science and applied extensively to canine behavior, that this particular movement produces a positive response from this particular person. The behavior that began as something functional gets amplified by social feedback. The dog does it more. The tilt becomes more pronounced, more frequent, more reliably deployed in your presence than in anyone else's. This does not make it performed or insincere. Both things are true at once. The tilt has a real functional origin, and it has been shaped by the dog's relationship with you. What matters is understanding what the original function actually is, because it is not what most people think. Dogs are active readers of human faces. A study by Natalia Albuquerque and colleagues at the University of Lincoln found that dogs could distinguish between happy and angry human facial expressions, and were faster and more accurate at reading the upper portion of the face, the eyes and brow, than the lower portion. Separately, research by Julianne Kaminsky at the University of Portsmouth found that dogs show heightened facial expressiveness specifically when humans are watching them, and significantly less so when the human's attention is directed elsewhere. Dogs are not passively absorbing emotional signals from the general environment. They are actively performing for human faces and actively extracting information from them. Your dog is not just picking up on your mood through tone or posture. It is reading your face, deliberately, the way you might read someone's expression across a room to understand what they are feeling before they speak. Think about what that means. The head tilt is not a dog that has been caught off guard by a strange sound. It is a dog trying to understand you. And in that effort to understand you, it is encountering something it needs to work around. This is the finding planted at the start. In 2021, researcher Stanley Coren published an analysis examining the relationship between muzzle length and head tilt frequency across 582 dogs. The result was specific and consistent. Dogs with longer muzzles, retrievers, shepherds, hounds, tilted their heads significantly more often than dogs with flattened faces. Bulldogs, pugs, boxers. Owners of flat-faced dogs reported head-tilting behavior 52% less frequently than owners of longer-muzzled dogs. The explanation Coren proposed was structural. When a dog with a longer muzzle looks straight ahead at a human face, the muzzle physically obstructs the lower portion of that face. The mouth, the jaw, the lower emotional signals, blocked by the dog's own nose. Tilting the head shifts the muzzle to one side and restores the full face to view. That's not a dog confused by a sound. That's a dog solving a visual problem. The behavior that looks like innocent curiosity, that soft, sideways tip of the head that makes every owner reach for their phone to take a picture, is a dog clearing its own anatomy out of the way so it can see you properly, not hear you, see you. Because your face is where the emotional information lives, and your face is what the dog is trying to read. Flat-faced dogs tilt less because they have less to compensate for. Their muzzle does not intrude on the sightline the same way. The acoustic explanation cannot account for this. The social one can. Draw the threads together, and what you have is this. A dog tilts its head because it is a species wired across 15,000 years of living alongside humans to read human communicative signals. Dogs carry genetic variants associated with reduced fear response and human-directed contact seeking that wolves do not share. This was not accidental development. It was biological selection, generation by generation, toward precisely this kind of attunement. The tilt begins as a functional orientation, part auditory, part visual, toward a person the dog has registered as someone worth paying attention to. It is reinforced by that person's response until it becomes a fluent part of how the dog engages with them. And underneath all of it is a dog that genuinely wants to see your face clearly, because your face tells it something that matters. A dog that tilts its head at you is a dog that has decided you are worth the effort of understanding. Your expression, your emotional state, the signals in your brow and your eyes. These are not background noise to your dog. They are data. They are how your dog tracks whether you are okay, whether something has changed, whether the person it has built its world around is the same today as yesterday. The tilt is the moment you can see that effort from the outside. It is your dog trying harder. If you want to know what your dog actually sees when it looks into your eyes, and the science behind that is genuinely stranger than most people expect, that is the next video.